We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this morning. I'll be joined by my staff, infection, and we'll be discussing and commenting on different stories and issues of the day. Want to start out our show and let you know that this is a 3-segment show today. As you know, on Saturday mornings we do 3 hours starting at 6 a.m. So our segments will be broken into 3, and we're going to spend this first segment talking a little bit about some of the issues surrounding the national scandal of Benghazi. Now, I know that there has been a lot of activity in this issue lately. We have had a number of different areas where our government has told us many things, almost all of which at this point have been shown to be blatantly untrue, willfully and intentionally misleading the American people. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty ticked off about it. What this shows is a clear and present disregard for the truth and for the responsibilities and the duties that an administration, whether of any ilk, has for their role as chief executive and executor of the law. If we can't trust the chief executor to execute the law and to be fair and honest and truthful about what's happening in our nation, what else are they misleading us about? In other words, if the White House will knowingly mislead the country, and that's not my words; those are words that are out there in the open. That's actually from a story on Weekly Standard. If the White House, yeah, that's probably more accurate actually, and not with a K. That's NIGHT. If this Night House will knowingly mislead the country about Benghazi, I wonder what other minor kinds of things they've been knowingly misleading us about that don't involve something as serious as the deaths of 4 people in a faraway land. I mean, let's be honest. What are the other issues that they're misleading us about? I mean, if they're going to lie to us about something that small, when in the overall scheme of things, I mean, realistically, they could have easily told the truth. The country would have been upset. They would have been angered. But they wouldn't have been angry at our own government for lying to us. They would have been angry at the perpetrators of the attack. You see, the problem here is that this administration, and by the way, this is not limited to this administration, so those ideologists out there, please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. This administration has a problem with pathological lying. It cannot, for whatever reason, it is incapable of telling the truth. Now, every administration does it. And the Bush administration did it before, the Clinton before that, the Bush Sr. before that, the Reagan before that. You can go all the way back. I don't even know how far. They all do it. But they don't lie about everything. And everyone, tries to play a little bit of a game with the truth, and they try to couch it one way to influence your thinking. But this administration is incapable of telling the truth. I mean, irrespective of what it is, whether it's about legislation that's trying to be passed, whether it's about an international incident, whether it is about the gun rights issue, whether it's about the Newtown tragedy, this administration just cannot tell the truth. It cannot bring itself to speak honest truth in an unvarnished manner. Now, I get that they want to use things to their political advantage. Every administration does it. Every human being does it. But to sit there and so blatantly lie to us on so many fronts about so many things that, quite frankly, they're caught in. So here's the problem. While they're pathological, they're not well practiced. Because we apparently catch them over and over and over and over and over. I mean, this administration, I'm just going to give you a perfect example. The issue surrounding firearms. When our president came out and has said repeatedly, this isn't one time now, this is multiple times he said this, 90% of America is for gun control. Stronger gun control. Well, first of all, that entire statement in and of itself can be debunked by the simple fact that the Congress wouldn't pass it. And so if 90% were truly for anything in this country, and by the way, I don't think you can collectively get 90% of this country to say anything. We are so divided, the division is so deep, the wounds are so deep, the scars are so thick. I don't think you can get 90% of America to agree on anything. Nothing. You couldn't get 90% of America to agree that America is a great country. How are you going to get 90% of America to agree to disarm the country? But the simple truth is that not 2-3 weeks after he made that statement multiple times, and the Senate rejected his argument and the House rejected his argument, proving that it was a lie, a poll came out that said 4% of Americans, 4%, were concerned about firearms. 4! That's not even the inverse number. It's even worse. Now we've got Benghazi. And before Benghazi, it was Fast and Furious. And before Fast and Furious, it was the National Defense Authorization Act. You see, here's the problem. This administration is so bent upon its own personal agenda that it has absolutely no problem with telling you bald-faced lies. Now, varnishing the truth, telling a white lie, twisting things a little bit, I expect that. I don't expect an administration to come right out, flat out lie to you, and then do everything within its power to cover it up. Because the simple truth is this, and, Richard Nixon can attest to this. This is not the days of yore when the only method of communication was a newspaper. I mean, you've got cameras, you've got, you've got audio devices that can pick people up, you've got trackable emails. Listen, people, it isn't that hard to catch you in a lie. It's not that hard to catch you changing sides or positions. All I got to do is pull up something you wrote from 20 years ago when you were in college, or point to some statement you made last week to another group that you were trying to, speak into the wind with that group, and now you're talking to a different group. You're trying to speak into the wind for that group. It isn't that hard. But these guys are relying upon the age-old concept that, well, if I just lie enough, America will believe it. The problem is that they're consistently caught in it. This is like having your 8-year-old son who comes home, and every time he turns around, he's got another fallacy and another tall story to tell you. Here's the danger. The little boy has cried wolf so many times that when a real true issue does come along, this administration will never get anyone to really actually believe it. Now, Benghazi is a tragedy. And it's a tragedy because the lives of Americans were lost. And it's not even the lying about it. That's bad enough. But what really, 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 truly bothers me about Benghazi is their total disregard for the safety and the security of our citizenry working on this government's behalf in a foreign and dangerous country, and they nary lifted a finger to save those men. That is inexcusable. That, from a political perspective, is the unforgivable sin. No one can deny that what this administration did in Benghazi, forget the lying, forget the cover-up, no one can admit, or no one can fail to admit, that what this administration did in Benghazi was an absolute betrayal of everything that all Americans uniformly, yea, even 90%, will stand behind. And that is that we should never leave men behind. We had the wherewithal, we had the capability, we had the equipment, we had the plan, we had the men ready to go, and they were told to stand down. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an unforgivable sin. And it's an unforgivable sin that should remove this man from office, should remove Hillary Clinton from ever serving in a public environment ever again in any way, shape, and form and capacity. At best, the only thing that Hillary Clinton is good for going forward is as a public shill for the Democratic Party. She'll always be that hack. But the simple truth is that that is all she's ever going to be good for now.
I don't even think she's going to be good for that.
Well, I mean, you know, Americans' memories are brief.
And that is an unfortunate truth.
But, you know, lying obviously runs in the Clinton household as a standard operating procedure because Bill is you know, blatantly caught at it, and Hillary is very clearly. I mean, right now they're calling for a second subpoena for her, and I for one, I don't think that can happen fast enough. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk more about this Benghazi thing, and we're going to take your calls. I'd like to hear your input and your ideas about this, because this Benghazi thing, as far as I'm concerned, is the height of hypocrisy and betrayal to the American people on a host of different fronts. We'll be right back. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
Volunteers are at the core of the American Cancer Society's mission to eliminate cancer. Thank you to our volunteers who make a difference in the fight against cancer. Volunteer your time and talent today. Visit cancer.org or call 1-800-227-2345 to find out how you can volunteer with the American Cancer Society. That's 1-800-227-2345.
Having difficulty with your computer? Do you think it has a mind of its own? Well, don't be alarmed. This happens to everyone at some point in time. Worry no more. Computer Dave and Kyle can help you out with PC Geeks, a weekly show right here on 107.1 The Point. Tune in Thursdays at 1 o'clock to ask computer-related questions and listen to the web topic of the week. That's PC Geeks here on 107.1 The Point.
All right, we're back. You know, we were just talking off air for a second, and Mike made the statement that, you know, one of the problems he has with Benghazi is the fact that it apparently didn't occur to anyone that this was 9/11 and that the odds were extraordinarily high. And I understand that, but I also disagree in the sense that we know they knew. We know they knew. They did know. They knew that Benghazi itself was a hotspot. They knew that 9/11 was an anniversary, which in every terrorist book has always been cause for another attack. And they willfully discharged their responsibility by doing nothing. They knew there was plenty of warnings. They had been warned for weeks and weeks and weeks before this attack. I'm telling you, I've been doing some homework and reading on this thing. What they have been made aware of, and the proximity of the warnings to the actual date of the event, are so close and so closely aligned. Let me tell you something. Helen Keller couldn't have made the mistake of not recognizing something was going to happen.
Well, and was it not a hint that the British had pulled their people out of that same area? Was it not a hint that even some of the organizations like the American Red Cross, okay, the organizations that provide
the humanitarian
organizations,
it's not even there from a political perspective.
Yeah,
and they split.
They had pulled stakes and gone.
Yeah.
I mean, in law enforcement, that's what we call a clue. That's a clue.
Well, I'll tell you, the real challenge here is understanding. See, here's the problem. Everybody recognizes that Benghazi was a dereliction of duty. No one, I don't think, even the most liberal thinker has to acknowledge that this was a dereliction of duty. But here's the real challenge to this. We as Americans, the concept of our government and our president and our Secretary of State abandoning us in a foreign land is so foreign to us as American citizens that we have a hard time actually believing that that was their real action. You see, because here's the problem. We are conditioned to believe, leave no man behind. We hear it reverberated over and over. We hear it in constant admonition. We hear, support our troops. We back our game. We play our ball hard, but we always are there for our troops. We constantly hear the refrain of, we support our troops. And when it becomes apparent that there was willful neglect, malfeasance, we have a hard time putting our arms around that. It's hard for us to accept.
So what you're telling me is that they had a volitional, what a great word, you're not going to use it very often, a volitional willingness to sacrifice American lives for a political agenda.
Bingo. But yes, that's true. They were willing to sacrifice those lives for an agenda. But worse yet, that would be bad enough. And it is bad enough.
But now we have to concoct a lie to cover it up.
But we have to even go back to before the actual incident, because it would have cost them nothing to beef up the security knowing that it was coming. You see, that's where the real dereliction, that's where the real malfeasance comes in. The fact that they knew in advance, well armed with information, and refused to take action upon it. Because it's one thing to say, hey, we made a mistake, now we got to cover it up. It's another thing to say, I knew that what I was doing was a mistake. I continued with that mistake. I allowed the tragedy to happen, and now I've got to double up my lies to cover up the fact that not only did I make the mistake, but I had foreknowledge that what I was going to do was a mistake. You get the problem? In other words, you just went from a molehill to a mountain.
Right. Let me ask you something. Wasn't there another explosion outside of that compound that prior to this?
It was a week or so before that, and it blew a 30-foot hole in the wall. You could drive a truck through it. I mean, it was an IED that was set off outside the wall, and it blew a 30-foot hole through the compound wall. Now, this was only, I think, a week or 10 days before, maybe 2 weeks, before the 9/11 incident.
And in the meantime, the British and all of the humanitarian organizations are packing their bags and they're
running like rats. They're fleeing like rats out of a sinking ship everywhere, in every embassy. It wasn't just the Brits. It wasn't just the Red Cross. It was everybody. Everybody was like, you know what? We got a bug, because this is just way too hot for us. They all knew it. In fact, see, that's the problem. We knew it too. And we were, look.
And the determination to drive the political agenda was so great.
Well, I got to tell you, I think, and we'll never get to the bottom of this, and I'm going to tell you why. There was, first of all, this was not a consulate.
It was a diplomatic post?
Well, you see, here's the real deal. The real issue behind Benghazi, which there's been whispers about, there's been a lot of smoke, but we haven't actually seen the fire. But if we ever could really get down to the true national secrets that even these guys you'd have to get these guys from the CIA on the witness stand under oath to get to this stuff. And even then you wouldn't, because first of all, they do it in a closed door hearing where nobody's allowed to hear it.
Right.
What this real deal was arms trading. Arms trading.
Expand on that a little bit.
Okay. What they were really trying to do was trade U.S. arms to the Muslim Brotherhood. And that is what initiated this. There's also been a serious discussion about the fact that we were holding Iranians in that annex, not in the actual,
right,
but in the annex itself, right? And that this thing was initiated as a cover to get those people out. Now, I'm not going to get into the veracity of whether or not that's true. It's unprovable. So, and by the way, that stuff isn't, coming out of somebody with a tinfoil hat. That stuff is coming out of people within the State Department and within the intelligence community, quote unquote, right?
They probably don't have a tinfoil hat.
Well, they don't have a tinfoil hat because they actually know exactly what's really going on. The problem is that they can't speak about it because they're sworn to secrecy, and their top secret security clearances would be pulled or yanked. They'd be shot out in disgrace and the whole 9 yards. I mean, look at what they're doing to a whistleblower who's only talking about this. Imagine what this guy really, truly knows.
Right.
I mean, folks, you got to get something here. We have no idea what this guy Hicks really knows. What he's telling us is not even the first layer of the first molecule in the deepest part of the Pacific Ocean, over the Marianas Trench.
It's like an iceberg. You're only seeing...
This isn't an iceberg. This is a molecular layer on the surface of the ocean above the Marianas Trench. What this guy knows and what he could reveal to us, if he were so inclined and or willing to put his life on the line, because I'm guaranteeing you, they wouldn't wait for a brake failure. This guy would be popped from 1,000 yards out. What this guy knows and what he could divulge to the media and to the press and to the nation would completely rip this administration asunder. But he's forbidden, and I'm telling you right now, if he did say it, his life and the lives of his family would be worth a plug nickel.
Something that I wonder about also is you have all of these people who were taken out of that area, and some of them apparently went to military hospitals in Germany and stuff like that. And you would think that when Congress or when this committee that they put together was looking into this entire matter, you would think that they would go directly to the horse's mouth of the people that were there when the incident occurred.
Well, that would be hard because the Department of State has been keeping their identities a secret up until, and still to this day, Congress doesn't know all of who was there.
And then,
even with these hearings, Congress isn't aware fully of who was there and what their roles were.
This is that is incredible to me.
It's beyond incredible. My point is you have no idea of the depths to which this administration has gone to bury this information. I mean, to withhold the identities.
Well, it was right before an election.
They're still withholding the identities, and the election's way past. We're 6 months past it.
Yeah, but you just alluded to this a few minutes ago. This is the continuation of the lie. This is the continuation. Okay, now that we have buried this, and now that we have lied about all this,
right now you can't go. Now you can't go back.
That's right.
Of course, you've told the big lie, right? This is like lying to your spouse, right? Once you've started the lie, you can't go back. And so what happens is it just ever grows and ever grows and ever grows and ever grows. At some point, it either blows up in your face, or it destroys things from internally because the corruption's begun. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you something. The corruption is not begun in this administration. It's in full-blown maturity. And I'll tell you, this Benghazi thing is a tragedy, but I got to tell you, In November of 2011, when extortion 17 went down, we're going to get into that in the next segment. Because I got to tell you, what transpired there, and the lies and the misinformation and the misleading of those parents of these Navy SEALs who were killed, unconscionable. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The Connecticut elementary school building where 26 people were gunned down could be destroyed.
A task force in Newtown, Connecticut has recommended that Sandy Hook Elementary School be torn down with a new school built in its place.
We're keeping the site, and we're going to give it that makeover, hopefully.
A resident at a Friday night meeting supporting the task force's unanimous vote. Some residents, though, felt the site of last December's murder of 20 children and 6 adults should be abandoned. Others say a new school will be a fitting memorial.
Fox Radio's Ron Flatter.
The school board still has to sign off on the project, estimated to cost $40 to $60 million.
There's a SWAT team surrounding a home in South Trenton, New Jersey, where police say an armed man has been holding multiple hostages since late Friday afternoon. Homes on the surrounding block have been evacuated as a precaution. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Thanks to our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. You can reach Brian down there at 870-492-4030. It's located a half mile east of Walmart on 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My dear friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's located at number 2 Evans Arcade, and you can call her at 255-2253. My friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch opportunity. You can, from 11 till 2, and you can have salad and pizza, something tasty and something good for you. Our friends Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 293-0116. If you're considering doing any kind of remodeling, new or custom construction and or light commercial, give Bill a call and let him bid on your next project. Our friends at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue, 417-257-7799. They can be found at thebatterystation.com. Our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun, an outstanding opportunity with 400 firearms under glass. You can reach them at 417-256-3000, and they are located at westplainspawn.com. Located physically at Highway 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. And finally, the sponsor of our phone lines, Wits End Classic Barbershop, located on the square in West Plains. Best haircut you can get for $10, and a nice young man as well. Please visit and support our sponsors.
It's a call and make your voice heard on the biggest issues making headlines today, or on absolutely anything in your head. Every call I get goes on the air totally unscreened. It's unpredictable and uncensored, and you'll never know what to expect. Anything can and will happen on the next Alan Colmes Show.
And that's who you can catch every weeknight, 9 till midnight. The Alan Colmes Show on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point, Monday through Friday.
News Talk 107.1 The Point weather sponsorships are available for your business marketing plans. Contact Cody or Josh at 255-2548 for more information.
From the Point Weather Center, as we kick off the weekend, it'll be mostly sunny with a chance of late afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Our high 71. There's a chance of showers and storms into the evening. Overnight, a low around 40. Sunday should be sunny with a high of 65. Monday will start the week with sunshine and a high near 70. I'm Rod Tanner, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
If you or someone you know is among the millions of Americans with migraine, there's new information you need to know to help prevent these horrible headaches. New guidelines from the American Academy of Neurology and the American Headache Society find certain seizure drugs along with certain beta blockers are effective for preventing migraine attacks. Over-the-counter drugs including ibuprofen and naproxen, as well as some herbal remedies, may also help. For a complete list of treatments recommended, visit AAN.com.
Speaking of triple entendre.
Were we speaking of that?
We were. And we were with good cause. You know, I got to tell you something here. This is I posted this up on our Facebook page and on our website. Benghazi is not the only betrayal of truth, as if this is some surprise to you, that's come out of this administration and this particular war. Yesterday, there were a number of families from the Navy SEAL team. This is the Special Forces servicemen who were killed. There were 26 of them killed in a fatal helicopter crash in Afghanistan on August 6th in 2011. And there was a press release held yesterday where three of the families of these slain or killed Army Special Forces men.
Wait a minute. Navy SEALs or Army?
Let's see.
Get it right.
3 families of Navy SEAL Team 5, Navy SEAL Team 6 Special Forces servicemen, along with 1 family of an Army National Guardsman.
Okay.
That's why I'm kind of skimming here, but appeared at a press conference to disclose never before revealed information about the how and why their sons were killed, along with 26 others that died in a fatal helicopter crash in Afghanistan on August 6, 2011. Here's where this is the video that's linked up here is a 3-hour press conference. And I've got to tell you, I've spoken to at least a dozen people since yesterday alone on this issue. And most of them watched it in its entirety. And they did because the headline to this thing is that there was a Muslim cleric, a radical Muslim cleric, who was allowed to say a prayer at the funeral procession on the ramp. And the prayer that he read was more a curse than a prayer. I'm going to read it to you because I can't describe it in words, but when you hear it, you'll hear exactly the intention and the meaning of it. And this, by the way, is a certified translation that was done by the families through a certified interpreter to verify exactly what was meant. Here's the prayer. And I say this not as a prayer, but as a quote, because I would not deign to utter these words myself. Amen. I shelter in Allah from the devil who has been cast with stones. In the name of Allah, the merciful forgiver, the companions of the fire, the sinners and infidels who are fodder for the hellfire, are not equal with the companions of heaven. The companions of heaven, Muslims, are the winners. Had he sent this Quran to the mountain, you would have seen the mountain prostrated in fear of Allah, mocking the God of Moses. Such examples are what we present to the people so that they would think, repent, and convert to Islam. Blessings are to your God, Allah, the God of glory, and what they describe. And peace be upon the messengers, prophets, and thanks be to Allah, the Lord of both universes, mankind and jinn. For our military, in its political correctness, to allow that curse to be spat upon the dead men of our nation is an abomination.
Was this ramp side while they were loading their bodies up to bring them back to the States?
Yes.
That's incredible. That is...
This man, I'm telling you, when you watch this video, and I strongly encourage you to watch it, it literally had 55,000 hits within 20 hours. And I don't even know how many it has now. I'm afraid to even go look. But it gets even worse. The parents are questioning the cover-up and the lies that they've been told in how their sons died. And there's a father here from Philadelphia. And I got to tell you, I'm actually going to play you And you know what? You're just going to have to bear with me. I'm going to play this. It's about 5 minutes, but I got to tell you, I'm going to play it. I don't even care if the commercial comes. I'll pause it and I'll play it. I'll play the rest of it for you after that. But when you hear this guy, you can't help but understand.
And Obama comes up to me and he says, Mr. Strange, he grabs me by the shoulders, Michael changed the way America lives. I grabbed Mr. President by the shoulders and I said, I don't need to know about my son. I need to know what happened, Mr. President. And the Secret Service guys grabbed me. I'm crying. And he went to give me a hug. And I whispered in his ear, I said, Mr. President, is there going to be a congressional inquiry? And Mr. President whispered in my ear, and I could feel his lips touching. He said, Mr. Strange, we're going to look into this very, very, very deep. Well, I haven't heard nothing. October, we went down for General Colt's assessment of the investigation. We get there. They have a projector screen. The families are there. He's going over. What happened? He said it went through a chain of command for this landing site. I raised my hand. I said, sir, could I have the names of that chain of command? His neck snaps. He said, it's in the book, sir. I said, how about the black box? Black box got blown away by the flood. In Afghanistan? Come on. Can't find the black box, which is really orange? I looked it up in Google. Them black boxes don't go away. They lose black boxes in the swamps in Florida, and they find them. You're going to tell me you can't find the black box? Not acceptable. I tell my boss stuff like that, I get fired. Right? My son's 25-year-old son got set up and killed. So this goes on about, it's in the book, it's in the book. I have the book right here. They didn't put no ink in it. How can you give me a book with no ink in it? I call up the command. They said, we got a lot of complaints about that. I said, well, send me another one. We burned it. You burned it? They gave us a disc. Put the disc in the computer. It's whited out. See 2 sentences, it's whited out. My beautiful wife, I'm looking at it. I said, we have to do something with this disc. My wife, the genius, it's not me. Michael's stepmother, my heart and soul. We print it out. We print the disc out. It tells you everything. It was a setup. The Taliban sitting there with machine guns, motorcycles, phones. Who called them to tell them? Right? In the paperwork. Karen mentioned it. Billy mentioned it. General Colt's asking questions. What happened to the air controller? Did you check the area out? They were going into the Tangine Valley. Tangine Valley, it says in here, is the stronghold for the Taliban. You're going to put them in over the stronghold of the Taliban? Did anybody check the area out? Here it is, right here. Everybody can get a copy. It says, it's very brief again. It's out of the task force, blank. And it says something to the effect that over 100 Taliban plan to travel from Providence through the Tangine Valley to possibly shoot down the coalition force. May 11th, 10 days after they killed bin Laden, the Taliban know who's coming in a Chinook helicopter. Rules of engagement, it says in here, the Rangers are fighting the Taliban, right? They're chasing Quater, 8 of them. They kill 6, 2 get away. Quater and his buddy run into 18 to 20. It's in the paperwork. They run into 18 to 20 of them. I said, why didn't they take it out with a drone? The wind's the heart. What's his name? Admiral, he's lucky he ain't here. Admiral Horowitz turns around and says, to win the hearts and minds. How about my heart? How about my mind? I cry every day. My kids cry. To win the hearts and minds of them people, they hate us.
we're going to break this because I want you to understand the depth of this father's pain. When we come back, and this is a commercial, I can't avoid it, but I want you to understand and hear what this guy has to say when we come back, because he's questioning the official story about what transpired and how it transpired, and why the rules of engagement require that we be fired upon twice in order to fire back. Not to mention the fact that the Taliban had pre-advanced knowledge that this flight was coming or was overflying their position, and they were waiting for them. It was a damned ambush. We'll be back in just a minute.
If you're looking for a new or used pistol, shotgun, or rifle, West Plains Pawn & Gun has over 450 firearms in stock. All your favorite models like Beretta, Glock, Smith & Wesson, Kimber, and many, many more. West Plains Pawn & Gun is also a Class 3 arms dealer, so if they don't have it on the shelf, West Plains Pawn & Gun can order it for you. Even those hard-to-get guns. West Plains Pawn & Gun, 1713 U.S. Highway 160 West in West Plains, or online at westplainspawn.com. Stop and save up to $50 with Napa Know-How. Receive up to a $50 rebate Visa card by mail with qualifying brake parts purchased when you upgrade to premium or better. Stop by and ask for details. Pick up some Castrol GTX conventional motor oil for just $3.49 a quart. Napa Know-How. Napa Auto Parts, 311 St. Louis Street in West Plains. Coast to Coast AM brings the Ozarks a whole new feel for radio. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point. Where else would you get callers talking about everything from UFOs to war trends, from mental energy to anomalies, and from lost knowledge to aliens? Listen to experts and researchers who are part of the guest list every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk. Don't miss Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
All right, so if you're just joining us, we're listening to this father from Philadelphia who's expressing his frustration about the misrepresentation and the lies that he's being told about his son's death. And, I mean, I want you to I want you to hear for yourself the pain in this father's voice at the loss of his son. 25-year-old, brilliant, vibrant, living young man. And he loses him. And I got to ask you for why. What purpose?
They hate, my son told me they hate us. They know the rules of engagement. After the crash site, the Taliban walked up with kids in front of them to see if they could skin our kids alive. It's in the paperwork. I ain't making this up. I'm no military. It's in black and white. Pages. You know? So this mission goes on. He asks, about the air planners. Were there planners in there? No, we didn't see them. Who gave the okay? Who is going to be held responsible? Someone has to be held responsible. And it says in our paperwork, it goes all the way up to the top. It mentions Petraeus. It mentions Leon Panetta. All the way to the top. So General Colt's giving us this briefing, and he's telling us the helicopter's coming in. They're going to it's a pitch black. It's pitch black. But they see a couple guys on top of a building. They call up the Afghan administration to find out at 2 o'clock in the morning what these guys are doing on the building. You know what they told them? They're hanging crops. Now, I'm from Philadelphia, and we don't have many crops there. But I don't know people that hang crops up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And this is supposedly where the shot came from. General Colt says They shot an RPG 150 to 200 yards in the pitch dark. They have night vision goggles, the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda. They got AK-47s. They got RPGs. They got man pads. When we're changing the rules of engagement here to benefit them, we lost almost 7,000. Our guys coming home, does anybody know the suicide rate for these poor men coming home? It's 1 a day they're killing themselves. 1 a day these men are coming home. Killing themselves. I met men that were over there. Poor kid, you can't pop popcorn around them. We're changing the rules. So he says it's an RPG, a lucky shot. Are we playing basketball, hockey? Is he out of his mind? There's nothing lucky here. All our sons are dead. You know? I raised my hand. I said, General Cole, could it have been a missile? Heat-seeking missile, right? And there's no coincidence that Doherty and Woods might have found some heat-seeking missiles, right? Man pods, thousands of them, and all of a sudden you see what happened to them. All of a sudden, all these SEAL Team 6 guys are disappearing. Something is wrong. We need a congressional inquiry. Somebody has to be accountable for the biggest loss in this war. I have all the paperwork. I have all the questions. Everything's printed out. Billy and Karen and Vaughn been working their tail off helping us, you know. And here's no eye in the sky. The eye went off. When the helicopter got shot down, it's in the paperwork. We didn't know what helicopter got shot. It took us 10 minutes. My son, right? My son, Michael, was fighting for his life. Nobody came and helped. They didn't have the pathfinders there to check the area. Nobody checked the light. Nobody counted. Well, who's calling the shots here? This is bullshit. They told me my son had to be cremated. Everybody has to be cremated. My son didn't need to be cremated. I got pictures of my son. He was fighting. He had a gun in his hand. Come on. Fighting for this country, for us. And you're going to lie to me and slap me in the face? I called the command. I said, why'd you cremate my son? My son didn't want to be cremated. He's like, what do you mean? I got pictures of him. When I asked for the autopsy report from Dover, they sent me a disc with pictures. He's sitting there fighting. Everybody was burned beyond record. No, everybody wasn't burned beyond record. Another lie. Somebody has to be held accountable. No pathfinders. All of a sudden, the eye in the sky don't work. This is all facts. This is from the people that were there. We don't know. Somebody has. This is fact paper. It's all printed out with their testimonies from the guys, the air planners, I don't know, military, AWT, all that stuff. I'm a common guy. I was in the labor.
You know, this guy goes on to talk about his son. I got to tell you, I can't, and I am the father of a young man over there. And I got to tell you, we don't belong there. We've never belonged there. We have no business there. There's no reason for us to give up our treasure. And I don't mean money. I mean the treasure of our youth. For any reason. Certainly not for ideology or for our nation to spread a democracy which we don't even believe in and practice ourselves. How dare we sacrifice our children for no goal, no prize, no moral, ethical value. And this guy is sitting here knowing that these generals are lying to his face. He's got photographs of his son fighting, and they're lying to him and saying his body was burned beyond recognition and we had to cremate him. They're so pathological, they can't even keep their story straight enough from one hand to the other.
10 years for what? How many tens of thousands of young people crippled for the rest of their lives?
There is no excuse for us to be there. There is nothing worth the price that we are paying. There is nothing there that is worth the price that we are paying. Nothing.
And now here comes Syria. And you know what, Mike? I hate to tell you, but I don't care if they kill each other by the hundreds of thousands. We got no business in Syria.
The simple truth is that we don't have any business outside of our own borders. It's inexcusable. You know, our founders taught us that we should be friends with all but allied with none, and that we should, Washington himself said we should stay away from entangling acquaintances and entangling encumbrances with foreign nations.
As did Jefferson.
And we have allowed ourselves to, and I got to tell you, this isn't about some moral high ground we stand on here. This is about money and power, and we're fighting a war over there. We don't even know what we're there for. We've lost our way. And you know, I'm tired of hearing that, you know, if we pull out of there, we've lost the battle. Let me tell you something. We've lost the battle the day we arrived. We've never had a reason to be there. Ever. 9/11 or not, there is no excuse for us to be there. We could have prosecuted 9/11 with a 50 or 100 cruise missiles and bombed them back into the Stone Age that they want to be in. Selectively, carefully, taking out the Taliban leadership who was responsible. Instead, we've lost literally tens of thousands of lives. Not just the ones who were killed in duty. How about the thousands who are killing themselves every single year when they get back home? How about the thousands who are never going to be mentally right? It's beyond shame. I'm appalled. I'm ashamed. And our nation is disgraced by this treason. Treason of humanity. Treason against life itself.
From West Plains, Missouri, it's KBMV Birch Tree. The Ozarks